If you don't want to hear the voice, then you can mute it. After a few minutes, Taehyung looked at Jungkook, who was now peacefully sleeping in his arms like a baby. He smiled and kissed his head. Take him home. He will get tired here to Vyung. Vyung said, picking up the sleeping Jungkook from Taehyung's arms. Gyuki, come. Kook shook his head. Guk. But Hyunji, I want to stay with Hyunji. Guk said as he side-hugged Taehyung. Bubba, I'm saying come, so come with me right now. Guk. But, can't you understand? A little loud. Vyung, why are you shouting? Vyung closed his eyes and let out a deep sigh. I will tell you later, but for now, Gyuki, just come with me soft. Guk, not wanting Vyung to shout again, went to him immediately. I will come after dropping them at home. After placing Jungkook in his bed, Vyung came back to the living room where Guk was sitting. Bunny, don't open the door for anyone except me and Taehyung, all right? Guk. Not even the guards? No, don't open for the guards either. Guk nodded his head. Guk. But why, Hyung? Is there something wrong? Vyung smiled as he hugged Guk tightly. He kissed Guk's forehead and said, No, there is nothing wrong, just do as I say, hum. Guk nodded his head. Then Vyung left for the hospital. At the hospital, as Vyung entered Taehyung's room, he saw that everyone was sitting there. Now tell me, why were you behaving that way? He is back. Taehyung looked at him with a confused face. Who? Jin. Neither. Taehyung widened his eyes. How and when? Vyung sat near him and told him about how that man gave him the envelope. This time IW will not leave him. He looked at Vyung, who had tears in his eyes, remembering the pain that Thai went through. Flashback. 16 years ago, Taehyung and Vyung were 10 years old while Guk and Kook were 1 year old. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Kim, were both mafias. One day Taehyung and Vyung were playing games in their room when suddenly Mrs. Kim came in running. Mrs. Kim, B-boys, we have to get out of here immediately, she said, making both of them stand up. Vyung and Taehyung both were really confused. Why? Mrs. Kim kissed Taehyung's and Vyung's forehead. Mr. Kim, I will tell you both everything later, but for now we are really have to go. Mrs. Kim held Taehyung's and Vyung's hands as she hurried down to the living room, where Mr. Kim and a bunch of bodyguards was already present. Mr. Kim, let's go. Mrs. Kim nodded her head, but as they were about to leave, suddenly the door opened. Where are you going? Dark chuckle asked her as he stepped inside. The bodyguards pointed guns at him. Mr. Kim, stay away. Come in, he said, and a bunch of guards came in. They were 20 more than their guards. Mr. and Mrs. Kim widened their eyes in fear. Without wasting a moment, Mrs. Kim told Taehyung and Vyung to run away from the back door, but before anyone could do anything, and his guards started shooting at Mr. and Mrs. Kim and their guards, while two of them held Vyung and Taehyung tightly. Just within a few minutes, the floor was all red with blood. Mr. and Mrs. Kim were both on the floor. Taehyung and Vyung were crying loudly and shivering. Then made his way towards them. Take both of them to the basement. Guard. Yes, boss. For the next 1 month, tortured Taehyung and Vyung badly. They both were kept in a dark room and were given stale and rotten food just once a day. Would beat both of them until they passed out or begged him to stop. Taehyung and Vyung were both mentally and physically weak. Until one day Mr. Kim, Jin's dad and Mr. Kim's elder brother, found Taehyung and Vyung. He saved both of them, and he also handled Night Group to the police. It took many years for Taehyung and Vyung to come out from this trauma, and that's Why they become mafias?